Did you download that emulator for iOS?
I downloaded the emulator. I was trying to download one of the images so I could run it, but downloading the images on an iPhone, it takes forever. The one I picked was like 4.7 gigs,
Oh,
and after an hour, it had gone about 12% of the way to
good
download it.
Lord.
Yeah, well, it's an entire operating system in a container that operates within the virtualizer. So, um, at some patient moment, I probably will because I am curious about it. It's one of those things that, if nothing else, I could freak people out by running Linux on an iPhone. Um,
Or iOS 9. Not
Probably,
iOS, but the Mac OS 9.
yeah, Mac OS 9 maybe, but iOS 9 no, I'm not interested.
No, I meant Mac OS, yeah.
But an MS-DOS emulator that also appealed to me to run Windows on an iPhone, especially
Yeah,
since
that
MS-DOS is
would,
character based. It would be hilarious.
yeah, that would be funny.
Um,
So how do you think in the next operating system for iOS, it's they're supposed to, Apple says they're going to support whatever that Google standard thing is so that uh, iPads and so forth could connect to Android people.
well, they can connect right now. What they can't do is they can't do they won't get a blue balloon, and a lot of the things that work very well on the Mac, like doing reactions and so on and so forth, won't work on Android. And the by adopting that standard, there is a standard that Google pushed. That's first of all, the way messages works right now, SMS messaging is the standard, and SMS messaging came about back in the days of the flip phone, and it's only 140 characters, and it has a whole bunch of limitations. And on a Mac, as you probably know, you could write an entire novel in pages. It doesn't have a particular limit. And getting that to work with Android is a pain. So Google came up with a different standard that has better security. So it supports things like end-to-end encryption and so on and so forth. The problem that you run into is that end-to-end encryption is just one example. Both devices at both ends have to support the same protocol, or otherwise end-to-end encryption doesn't work. And if one of them supports end-to-end encryption, but the other one doesn't, it falls back to SMS. So you could still be running the Google standard thing, but the machine you're talking to, for whatever the other machine you're talking to, might be, for whatever reason, running in the SMS standard, in which case it's not going to make any difference whether they have the new improved software or not. It's going to fall back on that common denominator. And a lot of the things that you can do, like animated emojis and so on and so forth, there's no way for Google to do that on Android because it requires a whole bunch of horsepower. B, it's patented. There's just a lot of things that you can do on the Mac that you're never going to be able to do on a Android machine. So how successful it is, I just don't know. Um,
Well, I run into trying to send out group emails, and not everybody has got an iPhone, and not everybody with an iPhone uh, turns on iMessage, oddly enough. So for me, it would be a big help if I could send from a Wi-Fi only iPad to phone numbers, which I now can't do.
you should be able to,
I
assuming
can
that
only send I can only send to phone numbers from a Wi-Fi only iPad if they're Apple's devices.
oh, that's right. I don't think that would change with Android because what happens is you have the choice of being able to send messages over the telephone system over SMS directly. But that's something that Apple did. That's not part of the Google standard. So
Oh,
that may not change anything. See, Apple, the way that Apple is doing it, when you send it to a known number, it doesn't actually send it to the phone number. It sends it via data to that machine. So it might look like you're sending it to a phone number, but you're really not. You're sending it via the data stream. And the reason Apple did that initially was back in the day, you could be charged 15 cents for one text message. And Apple wanted to get around it. So by having it go over the data stream rather than over the SMS stream, they're avoiding the phone company charging you thousands of dollars for text messages. This one teenager in California, she sent $9,000 worth of text messages in a month.
wow.
And Apple said, oh, we can avoid that. And they avoid that by sending it to the data over the data port to a device. And via the device, it's going via IP. It's not going via the phone number. If you send it to the phone number, it's strictly SMS, which again is that old standard. And that old standard was designed specifically for these old Motorola flip phones and things like that, or the Nokia phones. It wasn't designed for a smartphone. And it's
Well, Google,
unencrypted, it's in plain text, it's easily intercepted, but it's also 20 some odd years old. It's an old
how
standard.
does Google Voice let me send something via Wi-Fi to a phone number?
Well, Google Voice is a little bit different because again, that's a Google technology, and Google built it so that um, Google Voice operates purely over the internet. It's not going over a phone system. It's purely over the internet. So you have to have an internet connection or Google Voice doesn't work. And because it's going purely over the internet, it can then initiate a phone call from Google servers to somebody else, but it goes over the internet from you to Google, and then from Google, it may or may not go over the phone system. It depends upon how it is. You can send text messages via Google Voice. I don't know if anyone ever did it, but this friend of
I
mine in
do that
California,
all the time. Yeah.
yeah, a friend of mine in California sends me photographs and movies and everything over Google Voice. And he tells me that he sent them, and then I have to go find them because I don't know I don't know how it's supposed to be getting to me because he didn't say.
Mm.
So it's it's a complicated thing. And you might even notice in messages that you can send something out to a group, and when it comes back, it seems to have been scattered. And that's because if I send it to Kathleen and my daughter on text message, and it's Kathleen first, then my daughter, they both get it. If I send it to my daughter and then Kathleen, that's a completely different stream. So instead of going with the same stream, it's going now with two different streams. And if I send it to my daughter, Kathleen, and my nephew, then it's three different streams. And you end up with multiple streams and people replying and not replying. And with email, it all goes in that same stream because it's going to an email address. But over the messages, it doesn't really know what it's going to. So it goes literally in the order that it goes, and it goes as to just to that clump. And if you change the order, it creates a new thread of messages, and it confuses the heck out of everybody. But messages wasn't really designed to replace email. I know there are a lot of young people who do that, but it's not really designed for that.
The problem is that lots of people only check their email once a week,
I
but
know.
so I'm sort of forced to send them text messages because they may not see the email.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk in the Q&A today was an email issue that came up. And by the way, I am recording this, and if we only have 4 people, we should have complete agreement that I'm recording it. I'm recording it so I can stick it up on the website. The email example that I had is that I'm a secretary for my homeowners association, and I sent out an email to everybody in my list, and it's 160 some odd addresses. And one of them bounced back because the user on the other end, his mailbox was full. Well, since it's my own neighborhood, I uh, called him up and said, "Hey, your mailbox is full." Well, his wife had died 2 weeks ago, and she was the computer expert. He wasn't. And he couldn't get any new messages because his mailbox was full, and people were asking about, funerals and memorial services and so on and so forth, and he didn't know what to do about it. So I volunteered to walk over a couple blocks and help him out. And when I got there, I found out he didn't know the password to his email account. So there wasn't a heck of a lot I could do. His daughter eventually told him what the password to his own email account was. She knows it because she's helping with the estate, but she's not even locally. She's in a different state. And so now that I had the email password in hand, we logged into his account on Microsoft, and I saw that the reason why it had his mailbox had filled up is that there was a stop payment. The credit card used to get the Microsoft Outlook account was his spouse's, and when the credit card was canceled, it went back to the free 5 GB limit, and he had 5.4 gigabytes of mail. And he had thousands of messages. There wasn't anything big, but just thousands of messages. And I told him it's just simply not worth it to try and figure that out. So we got into his account, gave it a different credit card number, and it went back to, I can't remember what the next bump is. I think it's like 15 gigs, at which point he had more than enough, maybe it was 100 gigs. He had more than enough space at that point, and he was back in business. But he's probably in his 80s, and solving this problem was not something that he could do himself. And I find a lot of people in that situation, they don't understand, and they don't have to be in their 80s. They can be in their 20s, and they don't understand how email works. They don't understand how SMS works. But because SMS pops up on the machine immediately, they try and use SMS for everything. Somebody tried to send me a 6.5 GB movie over SMS. That didn't work. But they kept on trying for a couple of weeks before they contacted me and said, "Why is this not working?" And my response was, "You have a desktop computer. Why don't you try email?" "Well, it's been so long I used email. I'm not sure I know how to get in." I said, "Well, just launch it." And they launched it, and it worked perfectly. So a lot of people, for whatever reason, they don't know how the technology they have works. Another strange example. This woman got a Prius, and she got a Prius because she didn't like her gas bills, and she was getting like 38 miles a gallon. And I thought, how can she possibly getting 38 miles per gallon in a Prius? Because even if you had the emergency brake on, you should get better than that. Well, I found out that instead of having it in eco mode, she had it in sports mode. And when she started driving, she would do these jackrabbit starts, and she'd slam on the brakes when she came to a stop sign. So she was doing pretty much anything she could possibly do to waste gas. So I switched it to eco mode, and I drove around for a bit, and the Prius you can get a real-time reading of your gas. And I was getting 72 miles per gallon. And she said, "How did you do that?" And I said, "You approach stop lines. You know when you're going up to a stop sign, you start slowing down before then. You just let gravity slow you down. You don't use the brakes. When you out, when the light changes or you're going through the stop sign, you go gradually, you speed up. You use cruise control. You never break the speed limit. You don't take it out of eco mode, and you can go many miles per hour, per gallon in a Prius." And she was just astonished. So she went from 38 to 60, which it's not what I was doing, but for somebody who's learning all this new, that was much better than the 12 miles per gallon she was getting with her F-150 pickup truck.
Yeah.
But she just thought it was just magic. Just by having it, she'd get better gas mileage, and she but she wasn't getting what the salesman told she would get, because she really didn't understand the technology. And there are a lot of young people that don't understand the technology that's built into their camera or built into their telephone or their anything at all. They just don't understand the technology, and they need to have some guidance. And in this particular case, he didn't understand the technology. Plus, when his wife died, it cut off his account, and he didn't know that. So he went from 100 gigs down to 5, and it screwed him up, and he didn't know what to do. If I hadn't contacted him, he's told me he'd still be probably stuck with that 5 gigs that wasn't working. So it's a complicated. Um, we try to make the machines user friendly, but a lot of people, they'll see the ads on TV that it's user friendly, and they don't really think about what it takes to make it user friendly. And quite often it requires some effort. I wanted to say hello to everybody. We were kind of in the middle of a conversation there because we were talking with ourselves because nobody else was on. But this is the Q&A session, and my question right now is, does anyone have a question?
I do.
Yes.
Can you explain to me? I get notifications on my phone and it says it's got the iCloud symbol or icon, and it says your IP address is hidden and your Safari browsing activity is protected. So I get this when I leave home and I've been gone for maybe a half an hour. This pops up almost all the time.
Okay.
Or if I leave a Wi-Fi area or something that I was at. Can you tell me why and what it's for?
The simple answer is that the Wi-Fi in your home is set up in such a way that it's not protected at home. What Apple has done with Safari browsing, and they've done this since it's on the iPhone, it's on the iPad, and it's on recent versions of Safari. It'll do end-to-end encryption automatically, and it anonymizes your address when you're using Safari. So unless you do something to prevent it, when you go to a website, it can't track you by location. It can still track you with cookies and a few other things if you let it, but it can't track you by location. And the reason why this came up is that a lot of people are being targeted by location. You go into a shopping mall and they happen to know that there's a Nordstrom store in that shopping mall, and you end up with Nordstrom's ad on your phone while you're walking through the shopping mall. Well, why is that? Because the advertisers know that you're in a shopping mall that has a Nordstrom's. Or you went to what's the name of that? Bass Shop or someplace, a sporting goods store. You went there once and then you go home, and you went there because you were buying a gift for your cousin, and you go home and you don't do hunting and fishing, but suddenly you're bombarded with these hunting and fishing ads from this store that you were at because it tracks your location. With the current version of iOS and iPad OS and Safari on the Mac, it automatically it hides your location, and it end-to-end encrypts anytime you use Safari. Doesn't help if you're using Chrome or Firefox or something else, but if you're using Safari. However, if your home Wi-Fi is not set up properly, it can't do that. So what it's telling you is when you leave the house, oh, suddenly it can use the Apple privacy controls because you're no longer on your home Wi-Fi. So it probably means that your home Wi-Fi needs some work.
So how do I find out what it needs, what kind of work it needs?
That's not an easy question. But if you I can't remember what the name of the technology that Apple has. You can probably Google a question like how do I ensure privacy in my in Safari on my home Wi-Fi system or something, and there'll be some things on there. I will tell you that for something like that kind of nebulous a question, quite often a lot of the suggestions are stupid. On my home Wi-Fi, it doesn't like the firewall system that I have. But that's one of the things I'm going to talk about today. My firewall, which is I use to protect myself, recently told me that it's obsolete. And it was really nice of it to tell me that, because that's a nice kind of thing that you'd want to know about your security. But then it told me that there is no replacement because the company that made the firewall hasn't made a replacement. But it was very good in telling me that it was obsolete. And I'm thinking, thanks. It's sort of like your doctor saying, there's this drug that will cure your cold. Unfortunately, I can't prescribe it to you because I don't have any. And you think, thanks, Doc. I really needed to hear that. But
One
pardon?
one real quick question well, there's not many people on anyway, but I'd like to have an update on how Kathleen is feeling.
Kathleen yesterday started her second series of chemotherapy. She did her first set of chemotherapy starting late last year, and then she had radiation, and neither one of them were as successfully as they liked, and so now they're on a new regime. And we were planning on going to Scotland in August, and we decided, no, we're not going to do that. We were doing that because our daughter was going to come up from England, and we were going to go to the World Science Fiction Convention, but we decided we're not doing that. Instead, daughter's coming out here. So,
Well, that would be fun.
yeah. Also, it might be cooler here than it is in England right now, which, among other
Oh, I
things,
can guarantee you that.
England does not believe in air conditioning.
No.
Well, last time Kathleen and I were in Scotland, we went to a movie theater because it was so hot in the summer. And we thought, they have air conditioning in movie theaters, not in Scotland.
Oh,
We
nothing
were
is
in
air
this
conditioned.
very dark box, and it was quite warm. I can't even remember what the movie was we saw, but it was an interesting experience. I'm going to post in the chat the link to the sign-in sheet, because just before I started up the Zoom session, I got a message from one of our members saying, "Oh, by the way, you should have a sign-in sheet." And I thought, yeah, that'd be nice, since I've forgotten every month since March or April. But there's a sign-in sheet. Any other questions? No other questions? Well, it just so happens that I have an answer also talking about the question about the privacy thing in Safari. Kathleen was watching TV today, and she wanted why was Apple blowing up birds? And I thought that was a strange question to ask. And so I found
Aren't they drones that look like birds?
Yes, they are, but I had never seen the commercial before. And so I'm going to show that commercial in a second or two, because this also has something to do with what we're talking about today. But any questions prior to that? No questions? Okay, then I'm going to turn it over to our president and treasurer and ask if they have anything to say. Your mic is turned off.
There we go. Oh, that went away. I was just signing in on the sign-in sheet. Didn't know if you could even see me, but anyway, here I am. Welcome, everybody. It's a very small group, and I really don't have much to say. I missed last month because I was in Europe and had a fantastic time. That was all great, wonderful. And I guess I'll turn it over to the treasurer because I really have nothing.
Okay.
I have a little bit to say, but not too much either. We did get another somebody paid some dues again. So just one this month. And your check cleared, Lawrence. So right now our total is $1,940.63 in our account.
Okay. Any other?
Oh, I do have a question. Do you know when the construction is supposed to be done on the library?
They just started it. If you look, they tore down most of the outer walls and they're putting in the foundation right now. You can see they've poured concrete for the foundation. They're they say next year it's going to be done, and it looks like they're progressing, but it's at the stage right now that other than drive by and say, oh, they've done that, there's not much to see because they're about maybe 60 linear feet of wall, so they're missing most of the library. And
Yeah,
there's
I just went by this morning and I thought it's really taken them a long time to get to this point. I mean, I understand there was parking lot and other stuff that they were doing, but it just seems like several months have gone by for that little bit that they've done.
Well, part of the problem with the construction is the people when you contract for construction, it's not one contractor, it's multiple contractors. The people who tear down the building are not necessarily the same people who who haul the junk away, and they're not the same people who pour the concrete, and they're not the same people who do the outer frame and all that. So it's multiple con um, 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 a multiple contractors, and it just takes a while. Um, One of the things that I wanted to talk about was some Zoom features that you may not have noticed. If you're using the latest version of Zoom, which is 6 point something or other, 6 point something, uh, they have some new things that you can do with it. If you go down to the bottom, they have reactions, and you can have a reaction where you can push a little button and have balloons or have rockets or have I don't know what this thing is, cornucopia. I don't know what that thing is called. Or you can even go out and just search through the Apple emojis and have whales, which is great unless you're in Scotland, then you think whales are getting all the credit. Little linguistic joke there. But all kinds of strange things you can do, like you can scroll down to the bottom and they have international flags and all kinds of stuff that you can stick in there. Or you can just be very negative and have floating X's. But that's something that they've added recently, which is kind of cool. And Steve demonstrated that you can turn yourself into another creature. So there are a lot of different things that they've had. They have an AI companion thing that I'm not going to mess with because several people have played with it and it's kind of buggy and does stupid things. So we're going to kind of ignore that. But I wanted to show you that because if you want to, you can play with that and generate little things. I wanted to talk about the Internet of Things. And the Internet of Things was actually inspired by something that Steve asked. Steve asked if there were particular security cameras that you should use when you're when you have a Mac environment in your home. And the answer is yes and no. And it's a mixed question because it's not a simple answer. And the easiest way to approach that is to talk about something that he didn't ask about, which is the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is the ability, since the internet is out there, to add other devices that can be talked to over the internet. So if it's something other than a computer, even an iPad and iPhone are part of the Internet of Things because they're not, even though they're both computers, we don't use them as computers. We use them as communications devices. So I'm going to share my screen because I want to, if I can remember how to share my screen. Where's the button for sharing? Oh, there it is. I am going to share that screen. And we're going to move this out of the way. On your Mac, there's something called Terminal, and Terminal is a way to talk to the computer directly. So if you say LSAL, it'll list everything in the directory that it's in. It's in my root directory. It'll list everything that's there. So if I just say CD desktop, it'll move to the desktop, and I say LS, I get a different listing because there's not much on my desktop right now. There are a whole bunch of commands. If you give the computer a moment, it'll sit there and tell you all the different kinds of Unix commands that are out there. And it's taking longer than I thought. But anyway, it'll tell you about all the different Unix commands that are out there. They do a whole bunch of things, but you have to be able to know how to use terminal before. It did not do it. Usually it gives me a list of commands, but it's not doing that. One of the things that you can have is something called LSOF. LSOF is a command that lists all open files. So if I press this button, you'll see that there are a whole bunch of files open at once. I'm having a Zoom session, and there are just a whole bunch of open files, which is not terribly useful because there's so much stuff there that you don't really understand what it's doing. So I'm going to blow the screen up a bit so you can see things a little bit clearer. And I'm going to say LSOF-I. This will list all the open files that have an internet connection. And right this second, the only thing that I have open, I have Safari open, but I can close that. I have messages open, but I'll close that. So those are not open. And I'm going to say LSOFI and press enter. And there are lots of things that have internet connections open. So even though there's not much running on the computer that most people can see, there are a lot of open files. And it tells me what has opened up the files. Some of these things are things like printer ports and just a whole variety of things. Servers that it's talking to, like it's talking to a server that talks to Zoom. Zoom itself has several things that are open. Just a whole bunch of things are open. But one of the things that you will notice is that this is not exactly the easiest thing in the world for mere mortals to have, because LSOF why is it called LSOFI? Well, LS is short for list, and so it lists files, and you can say LSOF LS-A, and it lists all the files, including invisible ones. LSAL, it lists them, but it lists them in a list and tells you more things about it. Different ways to do that. So list open files is LS list OF open files, and then I means ones that have an internet connection, and it gives you all this, and it tells you what protocol it's using and what port it's using and all kinds of things. But again, you probably don't want to do that. So is there another way of getting this same kind of information? And the answer to that is yes, there is. And it's also a useful way of it's a useful way of finding out how things work on the Mac. This is a program called, it needs to be, I need to turn on things. Little Snitch is a program that, among other things, tells you what your computer is talking to on a minute-by-minute basis. So right now, running Zoom is talking to some computers in Washington, California, Utah, Iowa, Missouri, Virginia, New York. Local network means my own home, Ireland, and Germany. Okay, well, what happens if I open up something else? So if I open up messages, for example, messages, it's probably talking to something in California. If I open up Safari, it might be talking to some new places. I don't see anything new, but I'm going to go to Japan Times. It's probably going to give me another, probably not going to actually go to Japan. Nope, it's not going to go to Japan because it's going to an American um, server that serves that. But as you do things, what little snitch does is tell you what you're talking to, what your computer's talking to outside of your home. Tells you that you're talking to things in your home, but you're also talking all these things at once. And it's kind of a interesting thing to see. And I just opened up a connection to amazon.com.uk, and you notice it did not open a line to the UK. Why? Because amazon.com, it's actually co.uk. Amazon's UK site is also located in the United States. So it tells you a little bit about how things work. And it tells me the things that are currently or have recently, is that open? No, it's not. It told me that today I had a connection with Solitaire Epic, and it talked to the internet, and Fing did, and Kiwi did, and Microsoft SharePoint. All these things within the past couple hours have been opened and talked to something, even though they're not necessarily open together. And the name of this program is Little Snitch, and it's Little Snitch Mini. Little Snitch Mini is free. There's another version of Little Snitch called Little Snitch that you pay money for. And I don't really recommend, because almost everybody who's ever used the full version of Little Snitch have managed to disable pretty much everything on their machine. Because Little Snitch, the full Little Snitch, includes a firewall, which means that it can cut you off from the entire planet. And if you don't know what you're doing, that's probably what will happen. So I don't recommend the full version of Little Snitch, but the Little Snitch Mini, which is free, is definitely something worth having. Another thing that's interesting is this program, which is a fairly recent addition to the world, and you can get it from the Apple Store. And actually, no, you can't get it from the Apple Store. This is called Apparency, and again, it's free. And what Apparency does is kind of hard to explain, so I will show you. I'm going to launch Apparency. And Apparency is actually running, but you can't see it. Actually, let me stop Apparency. Because I want to show you something first. I'm going to go to some applications that I have, and you have an applications folder. So it's going to tell you about things about the applications, and I'm going to pick something like this program is called Vassal. If I say Vassal, and oh, I had it open earlier so it remembers. Normally what Get Info will show you is just this stuff at the top. Apparency tells you all this stuff down at the bottom. And among other things, it tells you that Vassal is not signed, which means it's not registered with Apple as being a developer. And also, none of these things are green. So application sandbox not enabled, hardening not enabled, notarization not enabled, data gatekeeper not can evaluate. This doesn't use any of the Apple's security technologies for writing an application, and you can't get it on the Apple Store, and it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so now let's go to something like Zoom. If I do the same thing and I ask Zoom, Zoom says that it is Sandbox is not enabled, but all the rest of these things are green. So it's registered with Zoom, so you know the developer really is the developer they say they are, and all this. I mention this because a lot of people download programs, particularly games, that are from unregistered developers. If it's an unregistered developer, it means they can write a program that doesn't follow Apple's security protocols, and you can end up leaking information. Most of the games out there, most commercial games, not some, but most commercial games, whether they need the information or not, will grab your name, it'll grab your IP address so they know where you are, it'll grab the time that you use the game. It'll grab a whole bunch of information. And Apple, if you have it on the App Store, you have to reveal all of this. Well, this Vassal's not on the application store. They're not a registered developer, which means they're not following any of Apple's security or privacy guidelines. Whereas Zoom is doing most of them. It's got a fairly good record here. I'm going to pick one more because I know it's going to not work right. And that is Xcode. Xcode is actually made by Apple. And if I bring this up, it's going to give me a little red mark down here at the bottom. Can I blow up? It's going to give me a little red mark down here at the bottom saying that it cannot tell whether or not it has it's securely signed by Apple because the size of the application is too large. If we go up here to the top, we'll see that Xcode is 6.42 gigabytes in size. So it's a big program. And the reason why it's that big is this Xcode is the suite by which Apple developers develop Apple programs. So it's a huge programming database. And so Apparency can't test it using the way that I'm using it. But there's another way you can use Apparency, and that is just to launch it. And once Apparency is open, we can say open, and we point to Xcode, which is way down here at the bottom. And it'll go through and it'll look at all of us, and it can actually do a lot more checks than just the ones that it shows in the Get Info window. And as you can see, Xcode follows all of Apple's guidance, but you have to use a more elaborate way of reading that information. So let's go back and look at Vassal and open that up. And oh, it just doesn't follow any kind of proper guidance for writing programs safely and securely and taking care of your privacy. Now, why do I mention this? On a desktop Mac, it's much easier to check what things are talking to than it is on your iPhone or iPad, which is one reason why Apple restricts what you can have on an iPhone and iPad. Right now in the United States, if you want to get something for your iPhone or iPad, you have to use the Apple Store. You can't just go to Joe Blow's website and download something and have it run on your iPhone. Although the European Union is trying to change that. So what do you do about things like that? Well, one thing you need to be aware of is that almost any device now can have a computer chip in it. And I happen to have a program on my machine called Fing that goes out there. We can't, I don't know why you couldn't fix that. Let's try this again. Well, heck, that was a good part of my demo right there. But I have alternatives. Fing is a nice program, but there's another free program that you can use for doing similar types of things. And that is called iNet. What iNet does, and that's a program that runs on the Mac, and you can download it for free, but there are also versions that run on the iPad and the iPhone. this thing up here at the top says that's a network icon, and it says, you want to scan that? Well, yeah, I do want to scan that. So I press scan, and it goes out here and it scans my network. It's going to take a few seconds to do this. And what it's looking for is it's looking for things that are on my network that are currently turned on and are talking via network IP. There's a particular way in which computers talk to each other over a network that's called IP, which stands for Internet Packet. And that's what this is doing. It's looking out across the network in my home at everything that is talking to the network at once. And it's going to analyze this for a second, and then it's going to show me the results. And if I come at this, looking at it from the top, this is my router. A router is the thing that I have in my home that spreads the network across the entire house. I have 3 routers in my home. This is one, and this is another one, and somewhere down here is a third one. They're made by Eero, which is a company that makes something called mesh routers. This Android that it's talking to, this is actually it's not an Android device. It's just something that's running an Android operating system. This thing by Amazon is a Amazon Echo. This thing by Google is, I have several devices by Google. I'm not sure which one this is. Quartz is a computer. It's a Mac computer. You notice it doesn't have an icon of the Mac computer, and that's because Apple is very sensitive about that. So the publisher couldn't actually tell you that, but it knows that it's made by Apple. It says Apple right up here. And another Google device, a Hewlett Packard, that's a printer. Doesn't know what this thing is, and I don't happen to know off the top of my head either. Nest Labs, I have 3 Nest Labs devices. One is a thermostat and 2 are cameras. Quartz is a Macintosh Mini. Heathrow is an Apple, what do they call it? Time capsule. And Manchester is another Apple time capsule. These are HomePod minis, so they're intelligent speakers. I can ask Siri all kinds of stupid things. iRobot is a vacuum cleaner. I don't remember what this thing is, so I'm going to skip over that. These are controllers in machinery around here. This is, I'm not sure what that one is either, and I don't know what that one is. Here's Maple again. You'll notice that Maple was listed, it's listed more than once. That's because I can have a Wi-Fi connection on the computer at the same time I have an Ethernet connection. So they're both connections, and so it lists Maple here and it lists Maple here. One of these is Wi-Fi and the other one is Ethernet, another unowned. Imp is another Mac. This is another iPod Mini. There's a Nintendo Switch. This is Dungeness is the Apple TV device that we have. They actually do look like square hockey pucks. I don't know what that is or that is, and I can find out. I happen to know what Enterprise is. That's Kathleen's iPad. Great Room. These are 2 Apple HomePod, full-size HomePod. Murasaki is my iPad that I use for reading books. This is the Google. There's a Google device in our bedroom. Imp again is a Mac I have. So one of those listings was for Wi-Fi and the other one is for Ethernet. Another Google device. Guest Room is an Apple TV that we have in our guest room. Epson is Kathleen's printer that she has in her study. Here's another robot vacuum cleaner. This is Kathleen's old laptop. Another one of the Eero routers. This Starling Home Hub I'm going to talk in a second. And Tricorder is my phone that's sitting in my pocket. That's an awful lot of things. Well, these are just the things that it could find in the moment. But there are other things in our house that have internet connections. For example, my watch has an internet connection. And the reason why I didn't see the watch is the watch frequently will just go to sleep because, unless I'm looking at it, it doesn't care. And Kathleen's phone, and I have another iPad that wasn't listed probably because it's turned off. And Kathleen's laptop is powered down, and my Windows computer is powered down. So I'm showing you this just to show you that a home today can have a whole bunch of devices that connect to the internet. Not shown on this, for example, we have a Withings bathroom scale, and you stand on the Withings scale and it takes your weight, but it also checks your pulse. It checks your your total body mass, because you have to tell it how tall you are and how old you are and a bunch of other things. So it does a bunch of things. It's also how we get weather reports, because what it does, it knows where we're located at. So when we step on it in the morning, about the fifth or sixth screen that flows by, it tells us what the temperature is that day and whether it's going to be sunny or rainy. All this from a bathroom scale. And obviously, for it to do this, it needs to talk to the internet. And it talks to the internet because it also sends that information on my weight to an app on my phone. So I can go into the doctor's office, and the doctor's office, have you weighed yourself recently? Yes, I have. Here's my chart of the recent rates, my weight over time. My wristwatch does the same thing, sends information to my phone. So he comes in and he says, what's your resting heart rate? Well, over the last 8 weeks, it's been an X and Y and Z. And how many steps have you traveled? My watch and my phone both keep track of that. There are a lot of things that you have probably that talk to the internet. Things that we have that we do not allow to talk to the internet. We have a new washing machine, not washing machine. We have a new dishwasher. The old one died after the warranty had expired. It decided to die. So we bought a new one, and the new one has an option to have it connect to the internet. I can't think of a single good reason why I'd want my dishwasher to connect to the internet. None at all. So did I set it up? No, I did not. You can get refrigerators now that talk to the internet. And we don't happen to have one, but you can get one. Well, why do you do that? Well, some of them you put certain things on certain shelves, like you put milk here and you put butter here and you put other things elsewhere. And when the weight disappears, it thinks, okay, you've used that, and it adds that to your shopping list. That sounds great, except that 3-4 years ago, the first company that did this was Samsung. There was a denial of service attack against a government agency that was launched from Samsung refrigerators. Hackers broke in and used the refrigerators to send packets to this government agency, and it overwhelmed the agency with incoming packets. It didn't care whether or not anyone responded to it. It just wanted to swamp the network, and it swamped the network and knocked them offline for a day. And that was done with refrigerators. Why? Because Samsung, in their infinite wisdom, when they were trying to figure out how to get this thing to work so it would add these things to the shopping list, didn't think about the fact that somebody else might want to use the refrigerator for some other purpose. There have been instances of Teslas being hijacked by neighboring cars. Somebody comes along and they wait for the Tesla owner to press the button to lock his car, and they use that symbol to break into the car and reprogram the car. So it does things like it'll flicker the headlights or change a Tesla makes a mechanical noise when you start it up. They've changed the mechanical noise to a fart noise and other entertaining things. Well, this is dangerous, because if you can make changes to the car, you could also disable security systems on the car. You can also disable safety systems on the car. If the cruise control, if you reprogram it so that it's 15 miles off, you could be going 15 miles over the speed limit. You could crash because the car's going too fast. A lot of reasons why you don't want to connect things up to the internet. And this gets back to Steve's question, which is he wanted to know, how can you tell whether or not a given security camera will work with Apple's technology? If you have an Apple-based house, well, one way to find out is you go to the Apple Store, And that's not what I wanted to do. Let's try this again. What it's trying to do is you have me download the beta of the next iPad operating system. Right now, you can get betas of the iPad operating system and the iPhone operating system. I do not recommend that you put a beta version of software on your phone because you actually need to use your phone to make phone calls. But if you have an iPad, it is probably safe to put the beta on your iPad. Just be prepared that you might have to erase it and start over again if you have a problem. If we go to the store here, here's the Apple Store, and you can, when it comes up, you can try and get things like accessories and such. So an accessory is something like a security camera. So you say what you want, camera, and it goes out and it searches, and here's a camera bundle to work with an iPhone, and here's a security camera. It's an Eve camera, which is one of many different kinds of, and that's the only one I see right happen. Oh no, Logitech camera. These are security cameras. The one I have at home, they're by Google, and yet if I go up to my control center up here on my where is it located? I don't see it right this second. Possibly because of the other things that I'm doing. The control center up here will also allow me to do things like see various and sundry cameras. And apparently I have temporarily managed to disable that, but it'll allow me to see what my computers, my cameras in the home are seeing. So I can have a picture of the back of my head from a security camera. My cameras are made by Google. They talk to Google's ecosystem. They don't talk to Apple's. So how do I talk to, how can my Mac talk to them? And they talk to it using this thing down here. It's called a Starling Home Hub. And I will take you to their website. And Starling Labs is a small little company, and for $99, they'll sell you this little brick here. It's got an Ethernet port, so you plug it into your network, and then it talks via Wi-Fi to the Google devices. You register the Google devices with the Starling, and the Starling acts as a bridge to send it into my Mac ecosystem. So I can look at my Google security cameras using my iPhone or my Mac or anything else I happen to have. And when I get notifications, they come to my iPhone. Really nice thing. It's $99. There's no subscription. It just works. But this is something called a bridge, and it allows you to take an ecosystem of internet devices designed for one system and have it talk to another. And other people make similar types of bridges for other types of products. So you aren't necessarily limited to just ones that are designed to work with Apple. But if we go back here, how do you get these things to talk to something? Well, all of these security cameras and such need to talk to something that's running Apple HomeKit. And the two most prominent things that run Apple HomeKit are the iPod speakers and the Apple TV. So the Apple TV, on the Apple TV, I don't really want to look at my Apple TV controls on my Mac because Kathleen's using the Apple TV to watch the meeting. But the Apple TV is a way that you register it. You register it and you set up things called rooms, and the rooms allow you to control different devices. So you can have a room for security cameras, or the rooms can be physical rooms in your house. Doesn't make any difference how you set it up. You can set them up by types of things, and then you can control them. So if we really wanted to, we could use that internet connection for our dishwasher. We could go to Seattle someday and say, oh, we forgot to turn on the dishwasher and turn it on from Seattle. But just because we could do that doesn't mean that's a great idea. You want to be a little bit careful about what you connect up to the internet, which is another reason why we like the Apple's HomePods and the Apple TV, because they support Apple's security model. When you sit in front of your Mac, the only thing that the Mac is paying attention to is the person sitting right in front of them. In other words, you. When you're looking at your iPhone, the only person it really cares about is the person holding it, which is you. And if the security only uses that as the secure point, means the only thing that can control my cameras in my home is my phone or my computer. It's a very secure type of way to do it. By contrast, the way that the security system we had, or the way that I'll give you an example. We bought a Nest thermostat. Nest was purchased by Google. So we bought it from Nest, but a year later they were purchased by Google. And Google said, well, we want you to switch your account from Nest over to Google. I never did that. Why? Because if somebody got a hold of my Google account, they could control my thermostat. And I kind of want to control my thermostat myself. Well, now I've insulated it because it goes through that Starling Home Hub. The only thing to control it is my Apple account. Even though it's a Google device now because Google bought it, Google cannot control it. Google has no control over that device. It only goes through things that I control. So that's why I mentioned the Starling, and that's why I'm mentioning these Internet of Things. Some things that you can get that I've seen advertised recently. At Christmas time at Costco, I'm going to turn off screen sharing because I want to actually see people here for a second. At Christmas time at Costco, they were selling strings of Christmas lights that you could control with your phone. So with your phone, you could change the lights so they were all red or all blue, or they would alternate, or so on and so forth from your phone. If you could control it from your phone, means you're controlling it from the internet. So I was curious, how secure are these? Well, we didn't buy one of those, but a neighbor did. And I went over there and did a scan of their site using that IPOF command that I was showing you earlier. Their Christmas tree lights were talking to a computer in China. And really, I don't think when they bought those Christmas tree lights, they wanted to have them talk to a computer in China. So you have to be judicious about what you want your devices to talk to. My wristwatch talks only to my iPhone. It also talks to Apple, but what it talks to Apple is it's very defined in terms of what it sends to Apple. My Mac only talks to me or Kathleen. Kathleen's Mac only talks to the two of us. It's a very constrained universe. When we add devices like our bathroom scale, we thought about that a great deal because it's recording our weight and heartbeat and a couple other things with the bathroom, actually about 8 things with the bathroom scale. But the way in which it does that, it does it in a way that we control that data. It doesn't share that data with anybody else. And that's the kind of thing that we want. We don't want to leak information to the outside. You might have heard about the recent breach from AT&T. AT&T had a security breach where a third party got a list of 140 million AT&T customers. Okay, Kathleen and I do not have an AT&T account, except that this data breach also included former customers. Okay, is that bad? Well, we were former AT&T customers, and all of the AT&T, the former customers happen to be wireless customers, which means that breach that happened that was only announced last week or the week before affected us, and we don't even have an account with AT&T. So you want to be very careful about the kind of technology you bring into your home, and you want to be very careful about who controls the data coming from that. Because the AT&T one, among other things, our phones have a 240 area code because we bought them when we were in Maryland many years ago. We, between the two of us, probably get 100 text messages a day for people running for office in Maryland. How did they get our phone numbers? They got them from AT&T. Do we have accounts with AT&T? No, we don't. They're phones that we've just purchased in the past year or two. Those phones have never been in Maryland, but because AT&T leaked that data, we're now getting things from Maryland saying, please contribute to my House of Representative campaign. I'm running for dog catcher, so on and so forth, because they're blasting everybody in the 240 area code. And our phones think we're back in Maryland. You want to be very careful with your data and think about what the device could possibly share. A security camera can show a lot of things. Like, for example, you get up in the middle of the night and you wander into your kitchen and you're not wearing any clothes, but you have a security camera that can see you along that path. There are pictures of you wandering around all together. Well, where is that data? If it's on a place that you control, that's fine. If it's stored in Google's or Amazon's account, Amazon stores all of their stuff on Amazon servers, which are located all over the place. You don't control those servers. You don't control where that data is going to. When I record these messages for SMIG, they're recorded on my computer, and I then upload them to our website. But they're not recorded in Zoom's cloud because Zoom doesn't have the world's greatest security. So I don't send it to Zoom. I record it on my computer here at home. I never upload it to Zoom. And I've been talking for quite a while. So are there any questions?
Do you have to run your security cameras through that Starlink deal?
The security cameras are still tied to their Nest account. So in order for them to operate, they have to be logged into Nest. But the data that they send is not ever sent to Google, and we are the only recipients of that information because of the Starlink. The Starlink intercepts all that and allows us to direct where we want that information to go. It doesn't go to Google because we never register it with Google. Our thermostat doesn't go through Google. It's under our control.
So if you bought, like when you were looking at the Apple site, there's a Logitech doorbell.
Yes.
Like Amazon's Ring deal or whatever. If you bought that, when you set it up, would you connect that through the Starlink then?
No, because the Logitech is designed to work with Apple's HomeKit. So if you have a HomePod or you have Apple TV, you already have a HomeKit base station. It needs a HomeKit base station, and a HomePod or an Apple TV is a base station. So at that point, you fire up your phone, you register the camera with your phone to the HomeKit, and you can do whatever it is you want to do with it because it's under your control and it's within Apple's security perimeter.
So if you logged into your doorbell from Japan, you'd be able to see whatever it's recording.
Only from your phone or a device an Apple device that you have.
Right.
Yes.
So that, because the way tell me if this is wrong, but when somebody rings one of those kinds of doorbells, it sends that information to the phone. Is that right? Somehow or other? Because I've had people say, talk to me through the doorbell, but they were not at home. But they could see me ringing their doorbell.
The answer is that you can set up how you want the alerts to be set up. So you can set it up so that if it sees a change in light, our security camera tells me it saw someone all the time when the sun comes up on a previously rainy day, because it detects the change in light and it says, oh, I saw somebody. And we can get it more refined so that it could actually tell me if did it see a person? And then beyond that, did it see Kathleen? Did it see me? I didn't bother to train it to do that because I don't want to. But most often when it says that, oh, I saw someone, it's just because the light changed. And the doorbell camera can be set up with alerts for detecting things like that, detecting motion. And again, motion is just to a camera a change in light. it can detect motion or it can detect sound. And if you're on a fairly quiet street, probably the only sound it's ever going to hear is someone coming up and talking to the doorbell. If you're on a busy street, it could wake up when a car backfires, because again, it's just sound, and that's the only thing you told it to trigger. So they are as intelligent as you would want them to be, but they're not that intelligent yet. And you probably don't want them to be too intelligent. As an example of something I would not get, though, I would not get an IP-controlled door lock. The IP-controlled door locks, they say that's nice because if you get home and you don't have the key, you can get back into your house because it'll recognize your face. Any kind of device like that, that's too easy to hack. So no, I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to send a signal to unlock the door. It's too easy to intercept those signals and have somebody else unlock the door. As an example, oh, I don't have my keys with you. If you have a remote door lock for your car, people have devices that set and they wait for somebody to press the button, and then they intercept that signal, and then they reproduce that signal so they can unlock your door, your car door. It's much easier on Kias, which is why Kias and Hyundais are stolen, because there's a technology called the immobilizer or something. It's a patented technology to immobilize the engine if the car is locked. And Hyundai and Kia didn't purchase that technology, so they're one of the few cars that out there they're fairly easy to steal. But if you have a remote door lock and you have an older car, like say you have a remote door lock for a BMW from 1997, that signal is not encrypted. It's very easy for somebody to intercept that signal, and then they can make their own little clicker with about $100 worth of equipment and steal your 1997 BMW. There is a way to defeat it, and that is when you lock your car, press it twice, because it only catches one signal. And the reason why it catches one signal, if you're in a big parking lot and you want to get that guy's car, you wait for that guy to press the button and it captures that signal. If you press it twice, it sends a second signal, but you've already filled up the buffer in this guy's device, so he can't steal the second signal because it only captures one. When you press that button, it sends a unique code each time, if it's a modern remote lock. Your 1997 BMW, I'm afraid, is posed, but for more modern cars, every time you press a button, it generates a new signal, a different key. And so if you press it twice, you've filled up the buffer of the guy trying to steal your car, and he doesn't get the second signal and he can't use it. Probably one more than you wanted to know about door locks, but getting back to your question about the Ring camera, you can set up triggers as you want motion, you want change of light, do you want to facial recognition. So, if Judy comes to your house and you want to let Judy in, it'll say, "Oh, Judy is home," and you'll know that. It depends upon what the capabilities of the camera and the software that runs the camera.
Well, I was particularly interested in when somebody actually pushes the doorbell. For example, when they leave a package on the porch, they're supposed to push the doorbell.
They don't.
But if they did, you would be notified, right? You might even be able to see them, because I've actually talked to people, but they weren't home. However, they could see me, and because I rang the doorbell.
Well, it depends upon the trigger. You can set it up so the trigger can be pushing the doorbell, the trigger can be sound, the trigger can be motion, whatever you set up is the trigger. Or you can have no triggers at all and you never get an alert. But
can you have more than one trigger?
You can have more than one trigger. Okay. But I will tell you that around here, if you're waiting for the UPS man to push the doorbell or the FedEx man, they just don't. We had a package dropped off here today, and I knew about it because I was out doing errands, and I got an email alert that that UPS had delivered it. But Kathleen was home all day, and no, the doorbell never rang. I do find it funny, though, that I'll be sitting at my computer and I get a message, and I look at the message, and it tells me that somebody left something on my doorstep, and there's even a photograph of this package sitting 35 feet from me on the doorstep. I find that hilariously funny. But yes, you can set up a trigger on the doorbell, so you keep track of that thing. It's just that at this point in time, I would not recommend things like internet connected locks. They're just that's too much of a vulnerability.
Hmm. Well, say you wanted to use you wanted to program your dishwasher some way or other. So you wanted to connect it to your home internet. Would you do that through the Starlink?
No, it's designed to go through your phone. And because it's going through your phone can kind of bypass the Starlink. The Starlink is the local network in the house. And the Starlink talks to the Nest via Wi-Fi. And when it talks to the Nest via Wi-Fi, at that point, the signal can't go to the outside world unmodified because it's on my HomeKit network. So, and my HomeKit reports it to me through the home app on my phone, or but by the way, apparently they're going to have a home app on the new version of Mac OS that's coming out. But it uses that HomeKit to tell me what what the Nest cameras are doing. It's not using Nest's network. So is it going out over Wi-Fi? Yes, but the Wi-Fi is only going to the Starlink, and the Starlink is rebroadcasting it through my HomePod network over Wi-Fi. I realize that sounds like bait and switch, but to some extent it is. It's going a secure connection from one device to another device, and then that other device is using my technology to talk to me, not Google's, not Nest's.
I wonder because there's some controls. For example, I had to replace my dishwasher also. I got a Bosch on the recommendation of the repair guy for reasons I don't want to go into. But there are some controls that you can only get to if you use their app.
Well, we have a Bosch, and I didn't install that app because I don't want it talking to the internet. So I don't know what those features are.
Well, for example, there's a 60-minute wash, which really is all I need, but it's not available if you just are touching buttons.
Well, I have to talk to Kathleen. Maybe she wants a 60-minute wash, but we're happy with what it does, so I don't care.
Yeah. I
That
was
is
interested in that doorbell deal though.
the
It would be nice, or just to have a camera to see whether the cats are tearing up any more of my clothing.
the security camera that I got after I purchased the house, but before we moved here. I purchased the house, I signed the paperwork, so the house was ours. I made sure that I had internet coming into the house. I set up a Wi-Fi router, and I set up my security camera so I could see my empty home in Swim while we were still living on the East Coast. And then when the movers came, for example, well, I had a friend in here in town. I purchased I purchased a washer, a dryer, a refrigerator, and those were delivered while we were still in Maryland. And our friend here in Squim came into the house, unlocked the house, and all this stuff was delivered. And my security camera told me this and says, "Oh, your friend has arrived, and there are other strange people wandering around the house with these big boxes." And I could see that from Maryland. So that's an example of the kind of thing that I wanted. And then now that we're here, we use it for other things. We use it for, among other things, tracking deer out in the backyard. But those are we probably have more deer visitors than actual human visitors. But it's the kind of thing that you can do with a camera that it's just nice to be able, like we were on the East Coast for Kathleen's ordination, and we had to notice that there was a power failure. So I thought, well, if there's a power failure, I shouldn't be able to see the security camera. So I brought it up, and no, I couldn't see the security camera. And then I wanted to know a couple hours later, is the power back on? I bring it up, and I could see the security camera. So I could tell when the power came back on. And I decided, okay, stuff in the refrigerator is probably not going to spoil. So there are different things that you can use just dependent upon what it is you want to do without doing anything particularly clever. Just if you have a security camera, you can sit there. Is the power on? Well, if you can't see the camera, probably not.
So if I have the Apple TV box, that's all I need. I don't need a HomePod device.
Correct.
Huh. Valuable information.
But it's with the point I was trying to make through this whole thing is you want to be very careful about what you hook up in your home to the internet. I did not get the internet controlled Christmas tree lights, and going over to the neighbor and scanning their network, I found out a good reason not to, because why would I ever want the Chinese to know what I was doing with my Christmas tree lights? The government has recently prohibited the sale of Kaspersky internet security products. Kaspersky is a Russian internet security firm, and while they say they're independent of the Russian government, the US government has information that the security information that people put into Kaspersky is being shared with the Russian government. So the US government put it in a ban. They put in a ban prohibiting the federal government from spending money on Kaspersky products about 6 or 7 years ago. And there's a new ban that just went into effect, I think, July 1st, that bans the sale of their products anywhere in the United States. Why? You're using this software to control, to protect your computer. But the fact is, and with Kaspersky active, it sends information to Kaspersky's security system to tell whether or not it's being kept up to date and such. Well, that'd be valuable information for another foreign country to have. So the Department of Commerce said you're not being very transparent with what you're doing. So as of July 1st, it's banned. You want to be paranoid. You don't want to be as paranoid as a friend of mine. He has on his Mac, he has a virtual machine version of Windows. And when he talks to the internet, he launches the virtual version of Windows to talk to the internet. When he's done, he destroys that copy of Windows. He literally throws it away. So any information is captured, he throws it away. And then the next time he wants to talk to the internet, he makes a copy of his virtual machine, launches that, talks to the internet. When he's done, he throws it away. He's very, very, very paranoid. And I also found out never go out to lunch because he doesn't ever carry a credit card. So I didn't want to get stuck paying his bills. So we didn't have lunch together too often.
Does he have his phone, whatever that ultra secure setting is on his phone?
No, he used a government phone. All of the phones at NOAA were iPhones because they have much better protection. And that was his phone. He didn't have a private one. He just used his government phone. And it was set up using a secure configuration that we developed. Like, for example, on the government phones, we've prohibited third-party applications. You got the applications that came with the iPhone. You didn't get any others. And some of the applications that the iPhone came with, you weren't allowed to use. And we could remotely disable them. So we were very paranoid.
Did you see that Microsoft has made its people in China use iPhones instead of Android phones?
The good news, bad news about that is the version of iCloud that they use in China is run by the Chinese government. It's run by a third party, but that third party is located in a building operated by the Chinese Revolutionary Army. And that's why Apple, when they go to China, and government agencies, when they go to China, you have a sanitized laptop or a sanitized iPhone. And you go to China with your phone, and when you come back, they erase it and start over again. And the same thing with your laptop, your phone, anything you take there. And the poster child for this was about 15, 20 years ago, the Department of Commerce, the Secretary of the Department of Commerce, went to China on a trade trip. He was giving a presentation, and there was something that happened, and for 90 seconds he was away from his laptop. The Chinese came in and stuck a USB drive in the side of his laptop, infected it with spyware, and that spyware was active in the Department of Commerce for a month before it was discovered. And by that time, it had spread throughout the entire Department of Commerce. And the Department of Commerce, as a result of that, was cut off from the internet for over a year while they sanitized every single piece of electronic equipment in the Department of Commerce. So that's you have a reason to be paranoid about these things. And a lot of people think, well, I live in Squim, nobody's going to bother me. Yeah, they do. Any other questions? One other thing I wanted to show people was it's something I went to just it's important that everybody know how to use disk utility. So I want to show you there's a manual for disk utility that's online at Apple. And I'm gonna show that to you for a second. Let's close you. But Apple has an online disk utility guide. I'm gonna close that. And it's got a whole bunch of things that you can do with it, and you click on this and it gives you more information. But disk utility is inside your utilities folder, and you can use it to check the health of your hard drive. And I mention this because about half a dozen questions I've received over the past month from people, not just in SMIG, but elsewhere, have been when their hard drive was having problems and they didn't know how to check it. Well, this utilities in your utilities folder, you launch it. I'll launch it. The easiest way to tell you this. This is disk utility. I have a lot of hard drives connected to my machine. And what you do is you just pick a hard drive like this one, and you press this disk first aid, and it'll run disk first aid. And I don't want to do that because running disk first aid will slow down my machine, which is not good when you're doing the teleconference. But Apple has this online guide, and I'll send out the link to this. But disk utility is probably one of the best utilities you have on your Mac for maintaining the health of your Mac, especially for older Macs. The disks wear out. In the past 4 months, I've replaced 4 drives on my machines, and I looked at them. Each one of them had been in use for over 50,000 hours, which is several years, and the average hard drive has a warranty of only a year. And 50,000 is well over, it's 5-6 years. I don't remember. I figured it out, but it's much way beyond the warranty. And when people say that they had their old machines not working, quite often it's because the drive is just worn out. Somebody gave the club a 17-inch iMac, and they said it wasn't working. The reason why it wasn't working because the drive was dead. Replacing a drive in a 17-inch iMac that was produced in 2016 would cost more than it would to go out and just buy a new iMac. So you should be aware of the fact that you really can check this stuff and see how healthy things are. Any questions about anything I said?
The little snitch and the other one was appearance.
Apparency. I'll put that in my notes. Apparency.
Okay. And it's not available from the App Store, is that right?
No, it's not. And the reason is that in order to do some of the things that it does, it doesn't follow some of the Apple security guidelines. This looks into things in a way that Apple won't permit things to do. It's not doing anything damaging. It's just that Apple doesn't allow applications to do the kind of things that it's looking at. It doesn't damage anything. It's just looking. but it's something that Apple doesn't do. Like, for example, that network scanner I have another network scanner that wasn't working that gives me a lot more information. But the iNet is available on Apple's Mac store for free, and Apple puts limitations on what kind of information it can pick up on your machine. So you can't get the other one from Apple's store, but you can get iNet, and iNet is free.
Hmm.
I recommend it almost anybody, if you have a desktop Mac, download iNet from Apple's store and just run it. You'd be surprised at what's on your network, because you probably have things on your network that you don't know about. When I was in Colombia, I couldn't figure out what this one device was showing up all the time, and it turned out it was the electric company had stuck a remote monitor on our electrical system so they could monitor our electrical uses remotely. What I didn't realize, it was using our network to send them that information. So I got torqued off once I found out what it was, and I blocked it from sending it on our network. So at that point, they had to send a guy out to read the meter all the time. And oh, that was so sad. But no, why should he use my network to send them information? So I blocked it. I'm evil. Any questions? My daughter's going to be here in August, and other people are probably going to be on vacation. You'll notice not too many people came today. So I'm suggesting that we probably skip August and work on something for September. Send me ideas that you might want on topics to talk about in September. I'm also going to look into having an in-person one. If we do an in-person one, it'd probably be on a Saturday afternoon, and it would probably be at the Trinity United Methodist Church in Sequim. There are some things that I just want to do a physical demonstration that involves, among the things, rebooting, which is not really a good thing for a Zoom session. You can't see some of the things that I want to show.
I have a quick question. Do you know how much it is to go to Trinity?
How much it is? Because I'm a member of Trinity, it won't cost you anything. It won't cost us anything.
So we
They
wouldn't
used-
be able.
They used to have like a $50 fee or something like that, but it doesn't apply.
So could we start having in-person meetings there instead of the library?
We could.
Asking too much.
The one meeting we had there, people didn't like the fact that the screen was up so high, and they said it hurt their neck having to look up at the screen. That's on my list of things to change at Trinity, but it requires money. And so I told them I want to move the screens down, but building modifications are not under my control. So I can't swear that's going to happen anytime soon. And they might not like to do that at all. So I just don't know. But yes, we could have regular meetings there, provided it didn't interfere with anything else, like things that have more priority. The blood drives, which the Clallam County blood drive, they hold them there at Trinity all the time. They have concerts, the Olympic Grand Chorus and the Sequim Orchestra and Port Angeles Orchestra. A lot of groups use the church, and we're going to be fairly down on the totem pole. But yeah, we can ask. If we get it on the calendar, we can use it.
Sounds good. And I doubt so many people would even want to go come wintertime, because a lot of people don't like to drive at night when it's dark.
Oh, I wouldn't. I learned from the last time when we had a live meeting, people, Saturday in the afternoon, even in the wintertime, it's light out. And that was acceptable for people, because unless they're doing something on a Saturday, they feel very comfortable wandering around on the afternoon. I wouldn't recommend us doing it this next Saturday, because Sequim is going to be packed with people. But on a normal Saturday, it's I was making fun of, I drove into Sequim today, and at this one stoplight, there were 8 cars in front of me. I mean, just imagine, this is terrible traffic here, 8 cars.
We're having our Sunbonnet Sue Quilt Club show at Trinity this weekend.
Oh,
so
good.
stop by
Um,
Friday and Saturday.
I was not interested in the quilt show until I saw it a couple of years ago when it was in Pioneer Park, and I was just blown away. I had my grandmother won a prize at the Eastern Washington State Fair in 1976 for this bicentennial quilt that she made. It was this huge quilt that had images of all the birds of all 50 states. And
oh, nice.
That was very nice, but that's what I thought the state of the art was for quilts. And some of the quilts that I saw at the quilt show were, they're breathtaking, just genuine works of art. So yeah, that is on my list of things to do.
We're pleased to have it there because the quilts will be put over the pews, and it should be a good show. We're hoping so.
Well, when I was in Pioneer Park, one of the things I noticed is that when the wind came up, it was rather challenging. You had
they had to take them off the scaffolding pretty fast.
Yeah, the quilts are heavy. When you get hit with one that's being blown by a breeze, it can sting a bit. Anyway, I will plan on something for September, and please send in suggestions as to what you would like as topics.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Sounds
Thank you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.